Today I'm going to be making some fire starters. Out of wax and pine cones. I'm going to melt the wax down. It's windy. I don't feel like lighting up a fire and a double boiler and the whole setup, so I'm going to melt it down on an induction cooker or an induction cook surface in a tin. These work pretty good in things like this. We'll see how this goes. It should take a little bit for this to melt down. And then you just basically dip your pine cones in it, let it drip until they're completely coated to the thickness you want. We don't have pine trees around here, so when I was up at my mom's in Missouri, she had some pines growing and I was around picking up the pine cones for projects like this. They make a pretty good fire starter on their own. But the wax just adds burn time to them. And you can use, instead of a lot of people will use the whole pine cone, which if you wax them, you can break off each little bit and use it, because they'll burn quite a little while. To heat it faster, we'll put it in a cast iron. The cast iron will pick the heat up a little better. Thicker and more mass. A little bit of water setting up the boil in there might help. Alright, it's starting to melt a little faster. I'm going to have to turn the boil back a little. I went and got one of my old cast iron pots. It's kind of had a little rough use. Filled it full of water to hold some more heat around the whole thing. It was melting a little bit on just the heat from the bottom, but with the induction it doesn't roll heat up a lot, so we had to make it to where it did. So in essence it's basically a double boiler. The heat from the boiling water is all the way around it, and you can see now inside that the wax is starting to melt and come up. It shouldn't be very long now. Alright, we've got the wax melted. This is one I tested a little bit ago. We'll dip it again. Dip one in. I usually dip the top in like this and then let it drip off, because when you turn it over it'll run down to the center column of where everything attaches. I don't know if this is deep enough to get some of these long pine cones. Actually it is. Let that mess run off and set up a little bit. These things burn pretty good on their own. The wax just adds more fuel to it, so they burn a little longer. And to make it smaller, if you want, you can sit there and break all the little leaves off, basically. The wax, it's been collected from like old candles, and I just throw it in an old tin in the shop till I decide to use it for something. This is generally a little safer melting wax because you don't have an open flame source. Wax, if you get it too hot, will fume, and any open flame, spark, whatever can ignite it, and it will blow a column of fire. I've actually done it out of the tin or whatever you're using as it burns off. It gets kind of lively. I try not to do that too often because it's a real pain in the butt. And if you do something like that, it's best to have something to cover it around. If you have an open fire that you can just stick over the top of your can, that's the easiest way to put it out. burning wax, like anything else, is if you knock it over, it'll just spread the fire everywhere, and that's not good. I tend to do this sort of thing outside just in case. You know, Murphy's kind of a butthole. You don't want to take the chance of in the house doing something that would burn your house down or cause problems. These are the pine cones after they've been waxed and cooled off. They don't look a whole lot different, but they've got a layer of wax over them. You can kind of tell in some areas. So what we're going to do is you can light this whole thing if you want to get a fire going really quick. Most of the time, you'll just peel off one, because that's generally what you'll need. And these don't ignite real easy. With a few things, an open flame does best on these. We're kind of out in the try to keep the wind from blowing it out. There you go. The wind blew it out. We got a pretty good amount of wind today. But you can see that they do burn pretty good. But I'll use these in my wood stove sometimes, peel off one or two of them, stack them in around the tinder and kindling and light them up. It helps get things going. They work best when if you can keep them out of the wind, as you can see, but you can also see that they burn pretty good. Just the pine cones burn pretty good, but the wax tends to help it. They're easy to make. You can break these off, carry them around in a little plastic bag or a tin or something and have them ready to go. They work best with an open flame, although I think you can mash them up a bit and get them with a fire steel or something like that. Get a good hot ball of molten metal in it and it'll ignite. Haven't tried that yet, but I'm sure it'll work. It works on pine needles and things along that line, so I don't see why it wouldn't work on this.